This is going to be a quick lesson on ecological interactions. Ecological interactions really referring to community interactions, so it's populations interacting with other populations. And there's some common interactions that we look at in biology. The three main types are going to be predator-prey, competition, and symbiosis. The predator-prey relationship is the easiest one to understand. It really relies on a predator, which is an animal that is going to go out and capture and feed on another animal, which we're going to call prey. Now, it's important in ecosystems because predators help regulate the size of prey populations and limit the locations that they can live in. So they really help determine what can live where and how big those populations can become. And when a predator goes missing, the prey population gets out of control. And their relationship is interesting. So let's take a look at what that relationship might look like. So here's a graph of moose and wolves living in the same area. It's a pretty famous example, so we'll take a look at it. So the moose population is here in the dark blue, and I'm going to use blue to highlight what that is. So here's the moose population. It's on the rise. Its population is kind of low, but on the rise. As the moose population is low, the wolf population is right here. So if we look at that, when there's more wolves, there's going to be less moose. And as there's less moose, the wolves have to have less because there's not enough food. And because there's less wolves, then there's going to be more moose available because there is less predators. And so when there's less predators, there can be more moose. And then as there's more moose, there can be more food. And when there's more food, there's going to be more predators, in this case the wolves. And you can see how this relationship is just off each other. So as one rises, the other falls, and as the other falls, the other one rises. And that really makes sense with the way predator works with the relationship with the prey. The next ecological interaction that we talk about is competition. And competition just simply refers to organisms attempting to use various limited resources at the same time. And when that happens, there's this race for the resource. So we'll start to see one organism fight for the resource versus another organism. And that could be as simple as in this example where we have the marmot going ahead and eating looks like a nut of some sort or a seed of some sort, and the birds wanting the same thing. In this case, they lose out of the resource because they got outcompeted. Same thing goes for maybe the wolves, where the wolves come up with a kill, and they're going to protect that, and so nothing else can get to that resource. But it could be as complex as something like this, where we have a picture of a tropical forest where we start to see the big trees competing for the sun and outcompeting the small plants. Maybe we're talking about here where it's root systems competing for the same nutrients. So competition is just this fight for these limited resources. And there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser, and the loser must find something else. The third relationship is called symbiosis, and symbiosis has many different branches. And what symbiosis itself means is it's any relationship where two species live closely together, and that happens in various forms. But we're talking about two species living so closely together that they're going to interact with each other really often. Now you'll recognize these names. There's three that I'm going to talk about that we refer to quite often. One is called mutualism. And mutualism is where they live together and both organisms benefit from living together. The most used example here is going to be the sea anemone and the clownfish. The sea anemone protects the clownfish, steers away its predators and enemies, and the clownfish will do the same thing. It will help the anemone out, and they both benefit. Perhaps it's example of a bee, where the bee is taking the nectar from that's produced from the flower, and in the meantime it's taking its pollen and making sure that it pollinates the other flowers, or maybe it's something like this where we have the plover eating the stuff out of the crocodile's mouth. The crocodile gets rid of the waste, and the plover gets fed. So they both benefit in this situation. That's mutualism. Now, there's also called commensalism. Commensalism is, again, two species that are living close to each other and interacting with each other on a frequent basis, where one organism benefits, but the other really doesn't receive any benefit, but it's not harmed either. So I call it the whale example, where the whale, you see all these little barnacles always living on the whales. The barnacles are basically hitching a ride on the whale through all the waters that are nutrient filled, and they're getting their nutrients that way. The whale really could care less. It's not getting any benefit, but it's not being harmed by those barnacles either. And the last symbiotic relationship that we look at is parasitism. And this is the one where they live together. One organism will live on or in the other, and that one is going to be harmed. And we see a whole bunch of examples with that. One we're all familiar with is this idea of having tapeworms. And animals will get these tapeworms. They'll live inside the intestine of those animals, where they will feed on the nutrients that the animal is providing, as well as the animal itself, until the animal cannot feed itself or gather enough nutrients and is harmed. We could say the same thing with fleas and mosquitoes and ticks, where they're taking from the organism that they're hitching a ride with, and they're not giving anything back. And as a matter of fact, they're probably damaging that organism as well. So those are common parasites and what that relationship looks like. And that's it. Those are the common ecological interactions that we are going to talk about in class. Hopefully this mini lesson will help enlighten you on some of those relationships.